Becca Yoni in commemoration of the first yard site of their grandfather Yosef Chaim ben Shlomo Zalman. And I'll read to you this beautiful, beautiful dedication. The Sun and Shine grandchildren wrote, "Our Zayda's commitment to Yiddishkeit, Torah learning, and daily Daf Yomi attendance for over 30 years will inspire us forever." We hope that the neshama of Yosef Chaim ben Shlomo Zalman has an aliyah on this occasion of his first yard site and the family in Nechama. Shir is also dedicated in Schus of Refuah Shalema for Tzvi Meir Halevi ben Sarah Leah. We hope that he, together with Kol Cholei Yisrael, has a complete and enduring refuah. All right, let's begin. So we're picking up at the Gemara. So the Gemara says, so remember again, we ended off yesterday with the Mishnah. So the Mishnah spoke about the idea that Kol Menachos Hanasos Pikli Tunos Shlosha Matanos. Any mincha that is made in a utensil requires three oil applications. So the mi'ute mai. So we'll say, what does this come to exclude? It comes to exclude ultimately again a mincha that is baked. A mincha that is baked in the oven. Tan Rabbanan. So now we're going to analyze this a little bit. So Tan Rabbanan. V'minchas marcheshes karbanecha. So we'll say, remember again, the Mishnah, the pasuk says, minchas. I'll read to you the pasuk in its entirety. Minchas marcheshes karbanecha. If you make a minchas marcheshes, we'll say, now what's the minchas marcheshes? That's what we call the fried mincha. Remember again, two primary. Well, there are more than two, but for our purposes right now, there's a minchas machvos, which we defined yesterday. Remember how as a deep dish mincha. Sounds good. Deep dish mincha, right? And a minchas marcheshes, which is more like a fried mincha. So we'll say the difference was the minchas marcheshes was made more on like a pan that was more like a griddle, versus the machvas, which was really baked in a thicker pan. So obviously it became thicker and spongier. So the pasuk says, "Minchas marcheshes kavanech." If you make a minchas marcheshes, which is the fried mincha, so solas bashemen te'aseh. You should go ahead and put literally solas means fine flour. Bashemen oil, you shall make it. What does that mean? Suppose say this teaches us that you have to go ahead and place oil in the utensil itself. Karbanecha. So we'll say, listen to this. So when the pasuk says karbanecha by minchas marcheshes, which is the fried mincha, and it says karbanecha by the minchas machvas. L'gzeir shava. Comes teaching l'gzeir shava. So what's l'gzeir shava? Top of ayin hey amud aleph. Makan matan shemen b'kli. Just like by minchas marcheshes, you put oil in the utensil. Af lahalon matan shemen b'kli. So to again by minchas machvos, you also go ahead and put oil in the kli. Umar lahalon yitziko b'lila. And just like over there, there's yitziko, I will say pouring, as well as a mixing of the oil. Afkan yitziko ubelila. So you make this gzir shava between a minchas machvos and a minchas marcheshes, ultimately to apply the halachos of one to the other. Tan Rabbanan, soles belula. So we'll say, so now the pasuk over here is talking about a minchas machvos. This is the deep dish mincha. So the pasuk says, mincha al machavas karbanecha. If you make a mincha machvas, this deep dish mincha, then what? Soles belula bashemen matzah tihia. So we'll say, so what does this mean? Says the Gemara. I'm sorry, lost the place. Chalos bolalan. So we'll say, so 3 lines down from the top. Ayin hey amud aleph. Chalos bolalan divrei Rebbe. So we'll say, so what happens if the mincha you are making is made of loaves? So Rebbe says you mix the oil into the loaves, which Rabbi say is another way of saying the oil is introduced after the loaves are already fashioned, after the loaves are already made. The Chum say no, solas. The Chum say no, you go ahead and you mix the oil actually into what? Into the flour. So we'll say, so remember again, just quoting from the Mishnah over here. So when do I go ahead, if I'm making a mincha of loaves, do I put the oil on the loaves once they're finished, or do I mix the oil into the actual dough? Machlokes Rabbein Chachamim. So turn Rabban, here we go. Soles belula. So we'll say, so the pasuk by Machlos says soles belula. Melamed shenev leles b'soles. So we'll say, this teaches me that the oil is mixed into the what? Mixed into the flour. Now we'll say, this is the opinion of the Chachamim. Rebbe says no, chalos bolalan. Not true. You go ahead and you mix the oil into the loaf. Shene'emar chalos belulos. Both sides says that it is mixed together with the loaves, which sounds like the oil is only introduced after the loaves are already made. Amru lo, v'halo lachmei toda ne'amar b'hen chalos. But they said, so the Chum said to Rebbe, but by lachmei toda, so also remember again, carbon toda, there's a carbon that is brought with many accompanying loaves. By lachmei toda, it says chalos, v'efshar lebolalan kishein chalos, and Abba said it is impossible to go ahead and mix the oil into the loaves when the loaves are already loaves. Now we'll see why that is in just a moment. Ella solas. So it must be that what? The only way it could possibly work with lachmei toda is if the oil is mixed in with the flour. We'll see why that's an impossibility to put on the loaves in just a moment. So ketzarosa. So how does this process work? No sein shemen bekli kodem lasiyasan. You go ahead and Abba say you introduce shemen. You pour oil into. So essentially, you grease the utensil. You pour oil into the utensil before anything is made. Vinosna. Then you put the flour in. Vinosein shemen alha. Then you go ahead and you put more oil into the flour. Ubolala. You mix it together. Velasha. You knead it. Vaofa. Then you go ahead and you bake it. Uposisa. Then you break it apart. Vinosein alha shemen. Then you go ahead and you add in more oil. V'komes. Then you take the kmitza. Rebbe says no. Chalos bolalam. So we'll say Rebbe says no, I disagree with this process. Rather, Rebbe says I think that the oil is only introduced once the mincha is already loaves. Shene emar chalos belulos b'shemen. Because the pasuk says it's chalos, it's loaves that are mixed together or mixed together with shemen. So we'll say, so what is the process for the mincha according to Rebbe? No sin shemen bikli kodem lasiyasa. So you go ahead and you place shemen in the kli before you place anything else in the kli. So we'll say that part of the process both Rabbi and the Chachamim agree with, namely that you're going to introduce oil into the utensil prior to the actual making of the carbon mincha. Fine, so that part we're all in agreement with. Ketzad osa no sin shemen bekli kodem lasiyasa. You go ahead and you place shemen in the utensil prior to the making of the mincha. Vinosna, then you introduce the flour. Vilasha, you knead it. Va'ofa, you bake it. Uposasa, you break it apart. Vinosin ala shemen ubolala, then you introduce the oil and you mix it in together with the pieces. V'chazar vinosin ala shemen, then you add in more oil after the mixture was mixed. Then you add an additional oil, the komets, and then you go ahead and you take the komets. Okay, so we'll say, so fundamental machlokes in Rabbi and the Chachamim as to how the process of the mincha with loaves actually takes place. Do we add in the oil essentially prior to the baking of the loaves, or is the oil introduced to the mincha in the loaf form? Machlokes Rabbi and the Chachamim. Fine. So they both say, let's go back for just a moment. So remember, one of the rayas that the Chachamim brought, so remember, and both of them seem to be darshaning the psukim, because the Chachamim darshan soles belula. Soles belula means what? Soles is flour, belula means mixed in. The Chachamim say from there, what do you see? That you mix in the oil with the flour. Rebbe, on the other hand, says, chalos belulos. It says that what? Chalos belulos, it's mixed in with the loaves. So it sounds like when they introduce the oil in the loaf form. Now remember again, what did the Chachamim counter? Remember the Chachamim's they countered. I'll tell you why that can't be true. Because the pasuk says chalos belulos by toda, carbon toda, and you clearly can't mix. You can't wait to mix the oil with the loaves of the toda, because it's impossible. It's impossible to mix the oil with the loaves of the toda. To which the Gemara says, why is it impossible to mix the oil of the carbon toda with the loaves of the toda? I'll tell you why, says the Gemara. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yitzchak, revius shemeni. Because it will say at the end of the day, there is only a revius of oil that is mixed in, that is brought with a carbon toda. Supposed to listen to this. All you have is a revius of oil. So if you tell me that the oil is mixed in with the flour, so fine, no problem. If you tell me the oil is mixed with the loaves, say here's the problem. A revius of oil is not enough oil to go around for 20 loaves, or at least not in a significant way. Therefore, again, it must be that even though it says chalos belulos, at the end of the day, that must mean that the oil is getting mixed in with the flour and not getting mixed in together with the loaves themselves. Good. So I will say, so fundamental machlokes. So just so you should know, the Rambam paskins like the Chachamim. And for the carbon mincha, the oil is actually mixed in the flour state and not in the loaf state. Good. Says the Gemara Baiter. Hachalos tunos balila urikikin meshichas. Remember, in the next part we'll say over here is that chalos, if you're making the mincha out of loaves, so ultimately again tunos balila means we'll say the oil is mixed in. So as we just saw before, the oil is kneaded together with the flour as part of the dough. Urikikin meshicha. But if you're making, let's say, for example, a minchas marchashas, which is the wafer, the rikikin type of mincha, then what? The oil is not really mixed in together with the batter. Rather, the oil is smeared on top of the rakik. It's smeared on top of the wafer like mincha. So Tan Rabbanan. So the Gemara says, so where do we know this from? Chalos balulos, velo rikikin balulan. Very simple idea. Because the pasuk says chalos balulos. So what does it mean chalos balulos? It's only if you're making the karban mincha in the loaf form that the oil is kneaded together with the dough. But if you're making rikikin, if you're making wafers, the oil is not kneaded together with the dough. Rather, the oil is smeared on top. Shiyachol, because otherwise I would have thought what? Valo dinhu, I could have made the following kal v'chomer. Or really, it's not really kal v'chomer. What it really is, I could have made the following limud. What's the limud? Uma chalos she'ein tu'unos meshicha, tu'unos balila. So Rabbi say if chalos, which don't require meshicha. Rabbi say what's meshicha? So meshicha means the smearing of the oil on top of the item after its completion. So chalos, if you have mincha loaves, so mincha loaves don't require meshicha, but yet they require balila. They require the oil to be mixed in with the dough. So I might have said rikikin shetu'unin meshicha, eno din shetu'unin balila. Therefore, we'll say wafers which do require smearing should certainly require kneading. In other words, we're both saying what the Gemara is suggesting based on this limud is that smearing is like an extra step. So smearing represents like an addition. I don't know if that's a technical term, but you understand what I mean, right? So meaning, so what that represents is an extra step, an extra oil application. So I would assume that if something requires an extra oil application, then what? It certainly requires what we'll call primary oil kneading. So therefore, again, if the rikikin, I should say differently. If the chalas, which don't require meshicha, require balila, so the rikikin, which require meshicha, which certainly require balila, rikikin shetun meshicha, eno din shetun balila. Therefore, Talmud lomar chalos balulos v'lo rikikin balulos. Therefore, both sides the pasuk says chalos balulos. It is only the loaves which are kneaded with oil, but not the rikikin. Good. Rikikin meshuchin v'lo chalos meshuchos. Suppose I similarly again. So remember again, it's only the rikikin, only the wafers, which are smeared with oil, not the loaves. Shiyachol, because I would have thought, v'halo dinhu, I could have made a logical argument. What's logical argument? Umar rikikin, she'inan tu'unin balila, tu'unin meshicha. But so when it comes to rikikin, when it comes to wafers, which don't require kneading, but yet require meshicha, chalos shetu'unos balulos, eno din shetu'unos meshicha. So we'll say chalos, which do require kneading. Certainly they should require smearing as well. Talmud lomar rikikin meshuchin v'lo chalos meshuchin. Therefore, the pasuk says it's only rikikin that are meshuchin, but ultimately again not chalos. So my Talmudah. So we'll say at the end of the day, what's the actual limud over here? In other words, how do we see this from the pasuk? Samarav, I'll tell you very simply. Lo lishtamit v'lichtov chalos meshuchos urikikin belulin. See, the pasuk could have actually just said everything in one phrase. Actually, if you look at Rashi, Rashi says where it's the top part of Rashi, right across on the Hagos Habach. Rashi says, Lo lishtamit ela ma dichsiv belula b'chalos u'meshicha b'rekika shmamina dahachi hu dafka. See, the pasuk could have just said chalos meshuchos u'rekikin belulin in one phrase, and I could have inferred from that what? That maybe both chalos and rikikin both get both steps. In other words, put it in one phrase, and I would have said chalos get our meshuchos and rikikin belulin, and I would have said chalos get both belila and meshicha, rikikin get both meshicha and belila, both get kneading and smearing. The fact that the Torah goes out of its way to mention them in two distinct psukim tells me that what? Tells you that halacha l'maisa, there are two distinct processes, and therefore chalos will say only get belila, do not get meshicha. Chalos are kneaded with oil, but not smeared with oil. Rikikin are smeared with oil but not kneaded with oil. Now, I do want to point out. Remember that in the case of the chalas, as we just saw before, as we just said before, that halacha lemaisa. Remember that according to the Chachamim, who we paskin like, oil is introduced later on after the loaves are finished as well. Remember again, so I'm going to pause here for just a second. According to the Chachamim, which is the way that the Rambam paskins, the process from mincha is as follows. Let me just read this to you again. Don't go back anymore. I'm just reading it to you. No saint shemen b'kli. You put oil in the utensil first, right? Okay, so vinos. Now then you introduce the flour and the water. Then what happens? Vinos saint shemen aleha. You go ahead and you introduce oil into the flour. Bolala, you knead it. Lasha, or I should say you mix it. Lasha, you knead it. Ofa, you bake it. Now you have complete loaves. Now remember, we're going to see this later on in the Mishnah. Posisa, you then take the loaves, you break the loaves up into pieces. Then, no sin aleha shemen, you add more oil, the komets. Then you take the komets actually from that. So I do want to point out that according to the Chachamim, oil is introduced a second time. But that's not Mashicha. Mashicha vosai means what? When you shmir, it's almost like you ever see sometimes if you see a person who bakes challah, right? So sometimes on the challah they'll put like a glaze, right, on top of the challah. So I don't know if people use eggs or people use oil. I don't know, whatever you use, right? So that's mashicha. That's mashicha. So we'll say that's according to that's mashicha. So I just want to point out. Even the Chachamim agree that halacha lemaisa oil is introduced after the loaves are made, but it's after the loaves are broken apart prior to the kemitza. What's happening over here is the rikikin are smeared with the oil after they are complete. Loaves are not. So bottom line, halacha lemaisa, oil is introduced into the challah mincha, into the chalos by the kneading stage, but there's no mashicha afterwards. They're bolalon. Rikikin get the mashicha. The rikikin are actually smeared with the oil when they are complete. Good, beautiful. Keitzad moshchan kiminki v'ashar nechas. Well, so remember again, the Mishnah said with the rikikin, how do you do mashicha? Like the letter ki, the Greek letter ki. Keitzad moshchan kiminki v'ashar nechal. My kiminki, amravkana kiminki yavani. Like the letter ki in the Greek alphabet, which I said looks like a chaf. Looks like a chaf. So you go ahead and you essentially the way you do mashicha is like the letter chaf. And the rest of the oil is then given to the Kohanim. Tan Rabbanan, we'll say let's go weiter. Mincha ba mechza chalus mechza rikikin. We'll say this is actually amazing. If you remember, this is really amazing. The way almost each of them up until this sugya, the last sugya, the way each of these Mishnayos always began, the Gemara's always began, is that the Mishnah, whenever we speak about Menachos, we always speak about what? 10 different categories of Menachos. So if you remember again, the Gemara always began by saying, why does the Mishnah have to enumerate all 10 categories of menachos? You remember again what the Gemara always answer? La fuke midi Rabbi Shimon, because Rabbi Shimon was the one who said that what? That you could bring a challah, you could bring a mincha mechza chalas umechza rikikin, half of chalas and half of rikikin. And the Mishnah's dafka coming to teach me that what? You can't do that. You got to choose a side. You got to choose a team, right? You got to choose a mincha. What kind of mincha are you going to bring? That's kind of mincha. You can't bring half of this, half of that. So we'll say, amazingly enough, now the Gemara actually delves into that opinion. So turn Rabbanan. Mincha ba mechza chalos umechza rikikin. Let's see you bring a karban mincha, half loaves and half wafers. So we'll say, what's talacha? Maybe lug shemen. So you bring one lug of oil. Vichotzeu. And you split the lug in half. Chatziav v'chalos, v'chatziav l'rikikin. And I both say use half of the lug for the chalos, half of the lug for the rikikin. I both say now what's riveting about this? What's riveting about this? Okay. I'm sorry. Looks like it's okay. So first of all, like that's okay. So I both say remember again, it's not okay. I'm going to go over again. This is not okay. I will say, but this is the first time the Gemara is actually just spending some time over here. What is interesting also additionally about this is that remember, as we just got finished saying, the oil is being used in two different ways. Remember, how is oil being used for rikikin? Mashicha, right? It's so to speak, it's smearing on it. And for chalos, it's actually kneaded in. So I'm just pointing out, it's interesting. So what's the halacha? How do we go? Chalos bololon or rikikin moshchin. So we'll say, so again, for the chalos, you knead it in. For the rikikin, you smear it. Mosheach as harakik al pnei kulo. But it's actually very interesting. Also, according to this price, what's happening? You smear the oil on the face of the entire rakik. Why is that different? What did we just learn before? We just said before kimin ki that all I'm doing is making like a letter chaf on it, and that's it. I'm not here according to this brisa. I'm smearing the entire face of the rakik. Ushara Hashem machzir lechalos. So we'll say, and here's what's interesting. Inevitably, in a case like this, if you're taking the oil and you're splitting it in half for the rikikin, half for the chalas, generally, if there was leftover oil, any leftover oil from the rakik side, was applied to the chalas. Rabbi Shimon Yehuda, Omer Mishra Rabbi Shimon, Omer Moshchan Kiminki. So Rabbi say here, Rabbi Shimon comes along and says, no, you don't smear oil on the face of the entire wafer. Rather, you just go and you make it like the Greek letter ki. Ushar Hashemen ne'achal kohanim. The rest of the shemen ultimately again was given to Kohanim. Now we don't paskin like anything, just stated over here for one simple reason. We pass like we've been pasking this entire time, which is choose a team, pick a side, commit. Don't have mincha. Don't be one of those guys who has mincha commitment issues, right? Go ahead, choose a mincha, commit to it, see it through. You cannot mix and match between rikikin and chalos. But again, interesting nevertheless. Weiter. Tanya idach. Rikikin abam b'fnei atzman. We'll say if you're bringing rikikin, you're bringing a mincha that's made up of wafers. Maybe lug shemenu moshchan. So listen to this. You bring one lug of oil and you smear the wafers with the oil. V'chozer moshchan achi chala kol shemen shebalug. And I will say, what do? You keep smearing it until you finish up all of the oil. Rabbi Shimon Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon Moshchan Kiminki. So we'll say Rabbi Shimon comes along and says, no. All you have to do is go ahead and smear it on their Kiminki, right? Like the letter ki, the Greek letter ki, a chaf. And what happens? Vashar Hashem ne'achal kohanim. And the rest of the oil is given to the kohanim. Beautiful. So we'll say, so now these mishnayos are very exciting because now we're finally drilling down into the details of the mincha. So watch this. Kala menachos hanasas b'kli. Next mishnah. All menachos that are made in a utensil, tu'unos pesisa. We'll say, now this is very interesting. So all menachos that are made in a utensil require pesisa. We'll say, what is pesisa? Pesisa is a breaking apart of the mincha. So we'll say, here's what's interesting. As we're going to see, what really ends up happening by a karban mincha is, you make the mincha. This is actually very interesting. You make the mincha in its entirety, and then what do you do? You break it apart. Then the coin takes the kamitza from the broken part, and then the shirayim is consumed. So we'll say, so first of all, it's actually very interesting, because now you begin to see the value of shirayim, right? The value of the leftovers. So really, again, the coin is getting the leftovers of an already made mincha. So any mincha that is made in a kli, tunos psisa, is broken apart. Kamitza is taken from the part that's broken apart, and then ultimately, again, shirayim go to the kohanim. So the Gemara says, so when you tell me any mincha that's made in a kli requires pesisa, requires a breaking apart, what does that come to exclude? It comes to include shtei alechem and lechem apanim. We'll say which although they are made in kelim, made in utensils, they do not get pesisa. They are not broken apart. Tan Rabbanan. Pasos osa. So we'll say the pasuk says, I'll read to you the word. Pasos osa pitim v'yatzakta aleh shemen minchahi. You shall break it up into pieces, pour oil upon it. It is a mincha. So the Gemara says, here we go. Pasos osa pasim mincha l'rabos kol menachos lepsisa. This comes to teaching that what? Every mincha rabosai, after it's made, is broken up into pieces. Oil is poured on it. The kamitza is taken, and the shirayim goes to the kohanim. I might have thought that this comes to include shtei halechem and lechem apanim. Talmud lomar osa. Therefore, also the pasuk says osa. Osa is a limiting phrase coming to teach you that although this will apply to the majority of menachos, there are certain menachos it doesn't apply to. Which menachos doesn't it apply to? Shtei halechem and karban and shtei halechem and lechem apanim. V'yatzakta shemen mincha. What does that come to include? The rabbos kol menachos liyitzika. This comes to include that you pour oil on all of the menachos. Yochol shanimar be'af minchas ma'afeh. I might have thought that this comes to include a mincha that is baked in the oven. Talmud lomar aleha shemen. Therefore, the pasuk says, aleha. Pasuk aleha shemen. On it you shall pour oil. Otzi esa chalos v'lo otzi esa rikikin. So maybe I should exclude chalos and not exclude rikikin. Talmud lomar hi. Therefore, also the pasuk says he. So my Talmud, what does this drasha teach me? So the Gemara is my Talmud. Minchas Kohanim. I would have thought that maybe ultimately it comes to exclude Minchas Kohanim. So the Gemara says, Amar Bezer will say, Amar Rabba, Ezu Davar Shetzarech Shnei Miutin. What is something that requires two exclusionary phrases, or two miutin? Havi Omer Zu Minchas Ma'afa. I would have said that this refers to a mincha baked in the oven. What does this mean? Take a look at the top Rashi, Ayin Hamad Beis. Havi Omer Zu Minchas Ma'afa. So sheyish ba shnei minin, because I will say a mincha that is baked in the oven could come in two different varieties. Chalos urikikin. It could either come ultimately again in the form of loaves or wafers. Lefichach tzricha beis miutin. Then I will say it requires two exclusionary phrases. Hilchach kamait mahanech trei miute. Therefore, ultimately again, it is excluded from these halachos based on the two mi'utin that we just saw before. Good. So we'll say, therefore, halacha l'maisa, the Mishnah tells me that any mincha that is made in a kli, tunos psisa, requires being, quote unquote, being broken apart. We now understand that we'll say, what does that come to exclude? It comes to exclude shtei halechem, lechem aponim, as well as what we call minchas ma'afeh, the mincha that is made in the oven. Now we have not yet really gotten to the quote unquote the mincha made in the oven. We'll discuss what the details of that mincha are shortly. So the Mishnah says as follows: Minchas Yisrael. So we'll say this is actually very exciting. So now we're following along the progression. So you begin to see now we kind of skipped a little bit of a step here, because in two Mishnayos ago we got into the halachos concerning the actual mincha preparation. Any mincha that's made in a kli, so the Mishnah taught me that oil is introduced at 3 different intervals. We then got into those details. The Mishnah we just read then got into pesisa, which is the breaking apart of the mincha. Now the interesting part is the breaking apart of the mincha is done when, Rabbi, done when? Interestingly enough, it's done after the mincha is already baked. After it's completed, it's broken apart. Our Mishnah now is going to go back a step and fill in some of those details in between. So watch this. We'll say Mishnah Ayin Ham with base 75b, second line. Minchas Yisrael. So we'll say when it comes to the mincha of a Jew, we'll say now this is Minchas Yisrael in contrast to the mincha of a Kohen, as we'll discuss in just a moment. Minchas Yisrael. Kofal echad l'shnayim. We'll say now watch this. So if you could imagine, you're taking a loaf. You fold 1 into 2, ushnayim la'arba, 2 into 4, umavdil, and then you split them apart. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says, Kovel kamo kovel chala achos l'shnayim la'arba, mavdil, mishabra hainu pesisa. So we'll say, if you imagine, you take the loaf, 1 loaf, you fold it into 2 pieces. You fold 2 pieces into 4 pieces. At that point in time, mavdil, you break apart the pieces. Now, the interesting lashon of mavdil just sounds like what? You just pull it apart. That's why Rashi comes along and says mavdil is mishabra. Mishabra means you break it apart. You break it into pieces. Hainu pesisa. This is pesisa. Minchas kohanim. We'll say, what about the mincha of a kohen? We'll say, remember again, minchas kohanim. This is really amazing. Minchas Kohanim could be a variety of different things. What could Minchas Kohanim be? Either what? It could be the Minchas Chavitin, which is the daily mincha of the Kohen Gadol. It could be the Minchas Chavitin of a Kohen on the day of his inauguration of service. It could be a Minchas Chote, right? So it could be, or just a Kohen's own mincha, or Kohen's just stamp breaking a mincha. The idea is anytime a Kohen brings a mincha, remember, it's not consumed, it's totally burned on the Mizbeach. So Minchas Kohanim, what do? Kol fal echad l'shtayim la'arba ve'ino mavdil. So we'll say, interestingly enough, by the mincha of a Kohen, you still do the same quote-unquote folding process. You fold the loaf 1 into 2, 2 into 4, but you don't break it apart. We'll say, why don't you break it apart? Why not? Because there's no pesisa. Why is there no pesisa? We'll say pesisa is the step before kamitza. Mincha of a Kohen does not. So we're working on the premise now that when does a carbon mincha get kamitza? When is there kamitza? When is the type of carbon mincha that the kamitza is offered up on the mizbech and the shirim are eaten by the kohanim. But if you have a carbon mincha that is not consumed, no shirayim, therefore what? Kamitza is not necessary. Any mincha of a Kohen is never consumed. It's always offered up fully on the Mizbeach. As such, the Mishnah is operating with the premise that what? There's no kamitza. If there's no kamitza, then what? Then pesisa is not necessary either. Amazing. Now we'll see why I have to fold it. Minchas Kohen Mashiach. We'll say now, Minchas Kohen Mashiach, remember again, is what we call the Minchas Chavitin. The Kohen Gadol offers a Minchas Chavitin every single day. Minchas Kohen Mashiach, Lo Haya Makavla, was not folded at all. So apparently, again, the Mincha was just offered up whole on the Mizbeach. Rabbi Shimon Omer Minchas Kohen Mashiach, Ein Ban Pesisa. Rabbi Shimon says that the Minchas Kohen Mashiach did not have Pesisa. Why? Mipnei she'ein bahen kamitza. Because it wasn't broken apart because there's no kamitza. The choshein ban kamitza ain't pesisa. And I will say any carbon mincha where there is no kamitza. Any carbon mincha. So kind of is this relationship. If there's no kamitza, there's no pesisa, and if there's no kamitza, there's no pesisa. Right? So there's an interrelationship between the two. The chulan posasan kazesim. I will say it's actually an interesting phrase. And all of the menachos. So it sounds like what it's saying over here are broken up into kizayis size pieces. Look at Rashi. The kulan shetzrichen pesisin kumekaplan l'shnayim l'dalet v'dalet l'chas v'chas l'tazayin adshu pesisin kizesim. So also, it sounds like what the Mishnah is saying over here is the pieces were broken up until the pieces themselves were kizayis size pieces. Kizayis size pieces. Good. See, here we go. So says the Gemara. Tan Rabbanan Pasos. So we'll say, so the pasuk just tells me that the carbon mincha has to be broken up into pieces. Pasos osa pitim. So what does that mean? I might have thought yachol l'shnaim. I might have thought, we'll say maybe that just means you have to take a loaf and you have to break it into two pieces. Talmud lomar pitim. Therefore, we'll say the pasuk says pieces again. Remember, the pasuk says pasos osa pitim. You shall break it up into pieces. Ipitim yachol yasana pirurin. We'll say this is actually amazing. If it would have said pitim, I would have thought that what? You break it up even into what? What's pirurin? Crumbs. I'm not mamish break it up into crumbs. Tamalomar osa. Therefore, we'll say the pasuk says osa. Now, what is the drasha with osa? Osa sounds like osa lepsisim velo pesisa lepsisim. It referring to the loaf. You break up into pieces, but not the pieces into pieces. Haketzad. Minchas Yisrael says, so how do I do that? So, osalub pieces, meaning I break the loaf into pieces, but not the pieces into pieces. So we'll say, what's the pshat? Ketzad, Minchas Yisrael kolfal echad l'shnayim. So we'll say, here's how we do it. Minchas Yisrael, you take the loaf, echad l'shnayim, you fold it 1 into 2, shnayim la'arba, 2 into 4, umavdil, and you break apart the pieces. Minchas kana min alkoy mashiach. And again, Minchas Kan Minchas Mashiach, is as we said in the Mishnah, was what? Was also folded up 1 into 2, 2 into 4, but you don't break it apart. But we learned that for Minchas Kohanim, you would not go ahead and fold it up. Amaraba ino makapla la'arba aval makapla l'shtayim. So we'll say, so for Minchas Kohanim, you wouldn't break it up into 4, but you would break it up into 2. Or I should say, you would fold it up into 2. So we'll say, the machlokis as to what exactly you do with the Minchas Kohanim. Are you just folding it up into 2 pieces, or are you folding it up into 4? Machlokis. Rabbi Shimon Omer. So also Rabbi Shimon says as follows. Minchas Kohanim, Minchas Kohanim Mashiach, ain't one pesisa. Rabbi say, Rabbi Shimon holds that the Minchas Kohanim Mashiach does not have pesisa at all. So we'll say, so why? Because Rabbi Shimon's shita is that what? Rabbi Shimon's shita is that pesisa is the prerequisite for kamitza, and therefore kamitza is only done by menachos, where the kometz is burned but the shirayim are consumed. By a mincha of a kohen, the whole thing is burnt. Therefore, kamitza is not done. And if kamitza is not done, then what? Then pesisa is not done as well. So here we go. Shimon Omer, minchas kohanim, mincha fine. Amar Rav Yosef, Hai chavitza. We'll say this is actually a great case. Hai chavitza, the ispe pirun kizayis. We'll say totally not related to Menachos in just a moment. Well, it's going to be related to Menachos in just a moment. Chavitza. Rabbi say, what is a chavitza? So if you look at Rashi Kisveyad, the bottom Rashi, about 2, 4, 6, about 8 lines up from the bottom. Chavitza. Rashi says is tafshil shekorin shalnikik, okay, or shalnokik, whatever, shemeparin ba pas. So we'll say this was this type of dish that they would put breadcrumbs in. They put breadcrumbs into this dish. So what's the shah? We'll say it's actually exciting. Hilchos brachas. So chavitza, the ispe pirun kizai. So we'll say if you have a chavitza, so I don't know what like a modern day equivalent of this is. Maybe like some kind of a bread casserole or something, whatever it is. Or souffle, quiche, not quiche, kugel. It's chas v'shalom, right? So we'll say so what happens? So if I have a chavitza, I have this chavitza, and I go ahead and I have pieces of bread that are mixed into the chavitza. The ispe pirurin. So we'll listen to this. Ispe kizayis. If it has chunks of bread that are kizayis, mevarchin aleh hamotzi lechem min haaretz. So we'll say if it has chunks of bread that are kizayis, then what? Then halacha l'maisa make hamotzi. Less pe pirurin. If at the end of the day it doesn't have pirurin kizayis, then mevarchin aleh borei minei mezonos. This is actually an interesting case. So I have this bread kugel. If it has pieces of bread that are the size of a kizayis, then what? I make a hamotzi. If the pieces of bread are less than a kizayis, I make a mezonos. Amar Rav Yosef mina minallah. Where do you get that from? Rabbi say, where do you get that from? That the bracha is dependent. Rabbi say, so in this case over here, apparently we're making the bracha totally dependent on what? The size of the piece of bread. If you have a kizayis hamotzi, less than a kizayis mezonos. Where do I know this from? I'll tell you where. The Sanya hayo omet umakriv menachos b'Yushalayim. This is actually so beautiful. If a person was standing offering up menachos in Yerushalayim, Omer Baruch Shechianu v'kiyamanu. So beautiful. If you had the schus to offer up a karban mincha in Yerushalayim, you would say the bracha of Shechianu v'kiyamanu v'giyanu. Right? You say Shechianu on the opportunity to offer up a karban mincha, not on the achlan. I will say so. Obviously, this is about the kohen. The kohen is offering it up. So the kohen says the shechianu. Then kohen takes the shirayim to eat it. Omer hamotzi lechem min haaretz. So what bracha Abba said? Do you say on a karban mincha? And the answer is hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Now watch this. And what did we just learn in our Mishnah? Utanan v'kulan pesisen b'kizayis. Abba said, what did we just learn in our Mishnah? That when you go ahead, remember the kohen's eating the shirayim. The shirayim is made up of what? Of the broken parts of the mincha. What does the Mishnah say? When you break up the pieces, you break them up into what size pieces? Kizayis. So now, Bosa, let's string this all together. Therefore, what does that teach me? That the only reason the kohen is making hamotzi is why? Because it's a kizayis piece. Therefore, taking this back to the chavitza. Now I understand the din by the chavitza. If the bread kugel has pieces of bread that are the size of a kizayis, then you make hamotzi. If it's less than the size of a kizayis, then what? Mizonos. All based on karban mincha. Amarle Abaye. Well, the time to be Rabbi Shmuel the Amar mefarchan ach machzin l'salsan. Hachinam yidol mevarich hamotzi. So we'll say now says Abaye, but here's the issue. According to Rabbi Shmuel, we'll say not everybody agrees with this statement in the Mishnah that pesisa means breaking it up into kizayis size pieces. There is the Tana of Rabbi Shmuel who holds that pesisa Rabbi actually means what? Is actually amazing. Pesisa means what? You break it up until you grind it back up into what? Into flour. So you're going to say that according to Rabbi Shmuel, if the kohen eats the shrimp, he won't make a hamotzi? Hachinam don't mevarich hamotzi? V'chitema hachinami. Maybe you'll say yes. Yeah, according to Rabbi Shmuel, we'll say, because you're grounding it back up into flour, if you eat some of that flour, you will not make a hamotzi. V'atanya, but we learned, liket mikulan kizayis v'achlo. We'll say, listen to this. If you went ahead and you gathered up from all of them a kizayis and you ate it, so we'll say, so this case is exceptionally ambiguous. So Tosas understands over here that this is not talking about karban mincha for reasons you're going to see in just a moment, because it talks about chametz on Pesach, and karban mincha is not chametz. So we'll say, so Tosas understands that it's just talking about a situation where you have flour made from from the different mimim, from the different grains. You just gather them together. It's not really so important what it's talking about. It's more important for us hilchos brachos. Liket mikulan kizayis. If you gather, I will say, from a bunch of flour or crumbs, a kizayis worth, va'achlo, and you eat it, im chametzu anish kares. We'll say if this flour is from bread or the crumbs are from bread, and you gather it together as a kizayis and you eat it on Pesach, you're chayiv kares. And in matzah, if matzahu adam yotze yidei chavas Pesach. So I'll say, so you see from here that what? You see from here that if you gather together smaller amounts and you eat a kizayis worth, then what? Then what? It does that of the din of bread. So I'll say, so what the Gemara is saying over here is as follows. So we thought before, what we wanted to prove from the case of Menachos with the case of Chavitza, that it's only if you have a kizayis worth of bread that it gets a din of hamotzi. Less than a kizayis worth of bread, you don't have a din of, meaning the piece itself has to be a kizayis. What do you see from here? You see from here that even if you take much smaller pieces, but you combine them together for the share of hamotzi, it also has a din of bread. To which the Gemara says, what's the case over here? Bishe'ir son. Both say the case that the Gemara is dealing with over there, Bishe'ir son. Both say irson means you gathered the smaller pieces together and you kneaded them into a kizayis size piece of bread. If that's the case, then why does that brisa speak about that you're chayiv for chametz or you're yotzei for matzah if you ate them bichdei achilas pras, which Shabbos says the time that it takes. We're not going to get into all these details now, but halacha l'maisa, if you eat items over a protracted period of time, they're only mitztarif if they only combine, if you eat them within a certain shear, within a certain amount of time. That amount of time for food items to combine to form one comprehensive, one cohesive entity is what we call bichdei achilas pras. The amount of time that it takes to eat half a loaf of bread. What type of loaf, the temperature of the loaf, those are all details dealt with in Maseches Berachos. But why is it saying in the plural, Vusha achlam bichdei achilas pras? Ibishe'ir son, if indeed you took the different pieces and you kneaded them together to form one unit, sha'achlo mi boile. It should say it in the singular, not the plural. Elohacha ma'askina, what's the case? Beba milechem godol. Oh, Rabbi said the case where they were dealing with is where the pieces of bread came from a larger loaf. And I will say, what's the pshat with ba milechem gadol? We'll say, if you look at Rashi, the bottom Rashi kisvei yad, the ba milechem gadol, perurem pachos mikizayis, shepasasan milechem gadol hein, chashuvos agav avihen, dichi pasasan have belechem yosem mikizayis, v'ahochi chayiv levarich ala purin shantal min alechem. We'll say, listen to this. So the Gemara says like this, ba milechem gadol, we'll say the Gemara suggests as follows. If you have bread pieces that came, get ready for this, that came from a larger loaf. So we'll say, because they came from a larger loaf, that loaf has a chashivos. Those pieces have a chashivos as well, even though what? They themselves are less than a kizai. So in other words, what the Gemara is saying over here is once you're bread, you're golden, right? Once you're bread, you're bread. And even if you splinter off a larger loaf, and what? You are smaller than a kizayis, you still have the din of bread, and there will be a halacha of hamotzi, even if you are less than a kizayis. Says the Gemara, okay, my havi Allah. Shabbos say, so what about the chavitza, right? So what's the halacha with the chavitza? I'm having bread kugel for dinner tonight. So what is the halacha? Shabbos say, hamotzi or not? Do we say that it's only if the pieces have a kizayis? That's what? That it's hamotzi, but let's say a kizayis. Not supposed to listen to this. My havi Allah. What is that? She's halacha lemaisa. Rav Sheshes Amar, afilu peirurin she'ein bahen kizayis. Both say the halacha is, if you have this bread kugel and there are pieces of bread in it, even if the pieces of bread are less than a kizayis, then what? The halacha is you have to make hamotzi. But there's an important qualification, which is v'hu diika turisa dinama alayhu. As long as what? It looks like bread. So the halacha is that bread does not lose its status, even if it's less than a kizayis, as long as what? It still looks like bread. So halacha, if you have this bread kugel and there's pieces of bread in it, if it's less than a kizayis, ultimately again, you still have to make a hamotzi. Can I tell you where this comes up all the time? This comes up all the time, the realm of croutons. If you go ahead and you make croutons from challah, from something else, those croutons have the din of bread. They have din of bread. Why? Because they come from, ultimately, again, a loaf which is chashav. I'm not talking about croutons that you buy that are commercially made, because those are different, I will say. But again, people sometimes make their own croutons from leftover challah, whatever else. That has the din of bread. It requires, ultimately, again, a hamotzi. Even though it's less than a kizayis, because it has a chashivas, because it comes from a loaf, and often it still has what we call turisa dinama. Teresa dinamo, it has the appearance of bread. So if you have the appearance of bread and you come from bread, then halacha l'maaseh, even if you're less than a kizayis, you get a hamotzi.